Welcome back, guys, to the final map of today's MLG Prizefights presented by BIC Flex4 Razors. I'm JP McDaniel. That is Wolf, and we're here to close out this series in Game 5 between Ganzi and Losira. Let's go ahead and jump into Metropolis and introduce our players. Up here at the 12 o'clock spawn on Metropolis will be I Am Losira as the Red Zerg. And down at the 9 o'clock is going to be Ganzi as the Blue Terran.
Indeed, and you know, we saw a crazy build last game, but this is the 5th and final game. This is for a lot of money. These guys are going to have to take this one seriously. This is actually a pretty good map for this matchup, in my opinion. I really enjoy watching it here because, yeah, the third base is pretty tough to take as a Zerg against any race, including Zerg. In ZVZ, it's pretty tough too. It's just a tough third to have, but on the same note, the Terran has to be careful with his third base too, and run bys are very, very common on this map, and that's what Losira has already shown us.
You mentioned this map is exciting for this matchup. I just think this map is awesome all around. It, like you said, that 5th base always proves troublesome in every matchup, and it creates these situations that are always so tense, and sometimes you can see them go into like a huge turtle situation, thinking about maybe Game 5 between MVP and Squirtle that everyone knows about. But it always has something interesting to offer in the gameplay of the players. And I think it's really becoming more so than Daybreak right now, one of my favorite maps.
It's definitely a really good one. I think there are some people who really dislike it because the close error positions do exist, and that can be frustrating. I mean, it's not close error positions, but I mean, it's a map where drops can be really strong, especially in Protoss versus Zerg. We've seen a lot of sentry drops used on this map, and the third base attacks are really hard for some Zergs to hold. But in this matchup, I feel like it's really fair and really fun, especially. Now, Ganzi is going Command Center first into double barracks.
What do you think about that? Is that pretty common these days? I think we saw him do something like this earlier in the matchup, right?
Yeah, and you know, double barracks rather than double gas is, double barracks rather than one barracks into double gas is slightly less common these days, but it's more safe. It allows him to put a little bit of pressure on his opponent afterwards as well if he wants to. It starts to build that Marine count up. And it means that his Hellions are going to be late or non-existent, but I mean, let's be honest, Ganzi is Korean. Doesn't matter how many range the Queen have, he will at least make a reactor on his factory at some point to at least get 2. This is going to be kind of annoying for him to deal with, though.
And we already see Ling speed started back from Losira. We saw in game 3, that he finally went for that Muta tech after we witnessed 1,000 Lings die in game number 2. On a map like this, with the close air spawns, do you think it's pretty much assumed no matter what, he will be going for those Mutas eventually?
Not necessarily, but this is one of the best maps for it. Excuse me, by far. I really think that it's a stylistic choice. We saw Losira already use Mulas today. And as I slowly die, I think it's entirely possible to see Mulas again on this map.
Small Marine push out here. This is, of course, is to just force Lings out of your opponent so he can't drone so heavily in the early game. But looks like Ganzi has the case of game 3 where he might be going the wrong way. No, it looks like he was actually just trying to clear the Zelnaga towers and maybe looking for overlords to snipe down. But now he has actually rallied across the map with these 7 Marines. We'll see how much damage he can do or how much he can really force out of his opponent.
Yeah, right now Losira has gone up to 4 queens, so he will be able to defend with those alone. But this is kind of scary. If he had decided to stick with 3, for example, this would have been a lot less easy to defend. He's going to actually have his queens on the ramp here. The Marine's going to go check for a third base, and like you said, he might be able to find Overlord if he's lucky, so he might as well continue to move around like this. Losira, though, does have Zergling speed done, so he has to be very careful with this. Just a few more Zerglings, once they come out, will actually shut this down and kill all these Marines.
Yeah. There is a Marine now blocking the third from going down. The Lings with speed will go in and just take a simple shot at it to knock it down. Will not see that drone coming in, so this little scouting party is actually not going to see all that much. Ling is about to see the wall that Ganzi has built over at his natural, and inside of that, he's adding in another racks as well as a factory. Already getting, whoa, that is some very quick upgrading there. Double engineering bay already about a third of the way complete with those upgrades.
Yeah, Ganji really loves his fast double eBay. Sometimes he loves it so much that he makes the eBay and doesn't use it, but this time he has used it right on time. And these Zerglings are actually going to trade with these Marines pretty well. In the end, the Marines do survive, and the Lings are going to get cornered here potentially. They check for the third base though, and that's really, really important information to have. Know that he hasn't moved it over there just yet. 2 hatches going up for Losira, 1 macro hatch at the natural, 1 at the third, and he's actually continued to leave his drones out of gas, making a second gas now, but still hasn't put the drones back in, interestingly enough.
There is already an insane creep spread started for Losira. I do expect that to be across the map here in the next 3 or 4 minutes of in-game time. Losira is going to be denying any SCVs for coming out for some time with these Lings right outside. He will force Ganji to utilize these Marines in doing so. Third base now finished, transferring over a singular drone. Already up on 4 hatcheries. Here comes a scan, does not see a lair, only sees 1 gas. So he's got to think, well, my opponent's still very low on tech. And, you know, with these 1-1 upgrades already, I think he might just push out.
Yeah, that would be a pretty cool push to see. And he's going to do it. Pure Marines coming out here. He's going to rally medevacs behind them as well. And this is a build that it's not quite like the one that Bomber has been doing recently, but it's a little bit new. And this is one that is designed especially for these new queens. This is something that's very unusual. There's no Hellions involved in this. He's just going to go pure Marine out here, and it's going to force a lot of Lings. 34, in fact, have been forced.
Yeah, and Baneling Nest is pretty close to being complete. There is, well, actually a lot of, where they, oh, the gas for double upgrades. Okay. I was wondering where all the gas went that he could use for potential Banelings. There are a handful of Marines getting sniped here by these Lings at the southern Zelnaga Tower, and that kind of halves Ganji's forces. And with that, I'm not sure if he wants to push out just yet, but here comes the medevacs actually for a big potential drop. But here's Losira with a ton of Lings once again.
Yeah, Losira with so many Lings. He's now up to 51. 5 Banelings being morphed right now, and these Marines are going to be surrounded and killed, but they're going to be in a pretty good position. A little bit surprised that, I mean, hold that thought as the drop is actually going to commence here. I'm a little bit surprised that Losira actually waited so long to kill those Marines. He's forced to pull his drones away here.
Yeah, the Banelings are able to connect on some of the Marines, and he loads up, only getting a handful of those left. Damage really not done. Took maybe 4 or 5 drones at most, but that drop was negated pretty well there by Losira. He's already up on 3 fully saturated bases, getting those +1 upgrades. Might be taking a 4th here pretty soon. Meanwhile, we see Ganji actually just now securing his 3rd.
Yeah, 4 additional barracks going down for that as well. He's going to start double siege tank production as well. He is powering everything up here. His upgrades are out of control. 2-2 versus 1-1 about to be here, and there's a Reaper on the way, and I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah, typically, well, you know, I was going to try to justify the reason for it, but what could he potentially be making this Reaper for? To maybe go on top of the Zelnaga Tower or something?
Well, what if he, yeah, he could do that. What if he uses the Reaper's building attack to snipe creep tumors? He just runs around, scans. I mean, 2 shots of tumor with its little grenade that it throws out. I'm just trying to be creative here, but I guess we'll find out pretty soon what he's got planned for. It may have just been a mistake. And these Zerglings are not enough.
Yeah, we saw the Ling run by happen in the 3rd, and looks like after 5 game, Ganji has learned that you have to actually defend that, so the Lings will not do all that much damage. We see a drop over here in the southeast. It's going to have to make a long trip. There is an Overlord that will scout it, but this hatchery could potentially fall.
Yeah, it could. You know, he's going to see this, but he might not have enough time with the hatchery as low in hit points as it is since it's building. We'll see.
He's also pushing across the map, so now Losira really has to make a decision here. How many friggin' Lings? He's up to 100. Well, he was at 110 Lings, but now he's got 12 Banelings being morphed here. Looks like that Reaper will just actually hold position here at the Zelnaga Tower. The drop moves on into the 3rd base. The infestation pit is there, and the Lings of Losira have been split. As will Ganji load up here, or no, it looks like he's just going to dart back down. This is not looking good. The Banelings are rolling in. and he has to load up at the last possible second. However, none of the tanks actually make it into the medevacs.
The drop that he sent was, it just ignored the base. And so he could have killed that, but he did not. He didn't really do that much damage at the third base, and things are looking pretty good for Losira. He's going to go for another counterattack. These slow, fast banelings are coming in, and it's very hard for him to drop these units. Well, he just wasted them all on siege tanks. That was a bit odd. That's going to help Ganzi get back into this. But look at the creep spread again. Losira is a little bit, he's a little bit like a madman with that. I don't know. I don't know what he's a little bit like. There's a ton of creep.
I'm always, whenever I watch TVZs, the big focal point for me is the Marine split. And I feel like Ganji is less than spectacular with it. Maybe
like
I'm just spoiled after watching Marine King for so long.
You're right, but he's not the best. But I feel like if he's paying attention, he does okay. But he oftentimes just doesn't split at all. Like, he's looking at something else very obviously, or he doesn't pick up because he's paying attention to something else. And he's lost a lot of Marines that way. Losira is maxed. His 2-2 is finishing, and that'll put him on even upgrades for a little while here, as Ganji's 3-3 is not quite finished.
There was a double medevac drop that occurred over in the main base, but it got cleaned up by the Mutalisk. And now we see a drop here on the east side of things. As the hatchery goes down, the medevac's going to fly right over it. The Mutas are actually getting baited at the moment, but it looks like Ganji is not paying attention to this drop just yet, as he could have caught a huge amount of Mutalisk off guard. But will he actually do it here?
He may. He definitely has the opportunity to. The Mutas, are they going to react? He sees now, and he gets the hell out of there. But this hatchery not going to be able to stick around.
43 banelings out on the map. This should get cleaned up very, very easily. It doesn't really matter what Losira loses here, because Ganji is going to lose 10-fold that. So many siege tanks actually lost in that little engagement. 188 supply right now to 168 of Ganji. He does have Thors out on the map, but so far his drops have really not done all that much, as we see another one here in the main doing its best to do some damage. But the banelings and just the overall creep spread and overlord placement is proving so troublesome for Ganji.
Yeah, you're right. I like this little rescue squad on the left side of the map trying to come and save the dropship from the Mutas. He does, of course, ward those Mutas off, but Losira is just making pure Ling at this point, going up to 75 Lings. He has 107 drones, by the way, for all of his bases. He did have to cancel that one at the right side of the map. In fact, he didn't even get a cancel off on it, but he lost it. And so he needs to rebuild that if he wants to make use of all 100+ drones he has. Ganji, on the other hand, is just now taking it forward. Look at the resource at the top right. He is starving at this point. He really, really needs more. If he loses his army a few more times, then he's going to be in trouble.
See Ganji taking a 4th base, adding on 2 more command centers for a total of 6 at the moment. And he's slowly starting to make a push here up the right lane, but that leaves the left lane completely open. And Losira was potentially thinking about going down there, but now with the Marines cutting it off, I'm not sure if he wants to. Army size-wise, Ganji actually severely in the lead, 131 right now to 94, but I think there's just too many banelings that stat is actually just negated.
Exactly. 105 drones right now to 69 harvesters for Ganji. And he's making that base at the bottom right. 2 additional command centers, as you mentioned. It's going to help him get his economy back on gear. He's maxed right now, so he's starting to get a bank. This engagement could be troublesome because Losira has so many banelings, and his opponent's army is very heavy in the siege tanks, 9 of them, and 2 Thors at the front. He's using them exactly for tanking purposes. He can use them to ward off Mutas as well, as there are still 13 out, but the way he's positioning them, he's just using them for tanking. Uh-oh, these Mutas are going to ruin Ganji's day.
Yeah, those Mutas have slipped by, and in the bank right now, 4,500 minerals for Losira, about 1,000 gas. These SCVs have no hope whatsoever, so they're just trying to mine as much as they possibly can. Baneling's actually colliding into the forces of Ganji, as now Ganji's going to lift up over here and try to take out this 5th base. We talked about in the opening of this game how it always is the center of conflict towards the end game, and good lord, that's just too many banelings here. Ganji seems as flabbergasted as most of our viewers probably are, and how to deal with that.
Yeah, he's trying to move forward with his siege tanks right now. It's very difficult for Losira to engage with how careful Ganji's being. He's going to take out this hatchery, then escape. And it's difficult to engage on the ramp like this when there are siege tanks. He lost a ton of banelings just then. And Ganji's supply is no longer going down, but Losira is starting to lose a lot here. Drones going down, his army not in a good position. He can actually just run up and down this ramp. And every time Losira tries to run up the ramp with banelings, he's going to lose so many of the siege tanks like this.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
There are Mutalisk in the back as they come in and start hunting down on these siege tanks. Get one of them, but there is enough Marines there to force him out. Will this be the big time to move forward for Losira? It looks like it is. Ultralisk are out on the map, and it looks like he has enough Banelings to clean that entire army up. But there's another army now pushing on the left lane here for Ganzi. But I think Losira just has enough stuff right now as he has so much money in the bank as 8 Ultralisk are about to pop out.
Yeah, he's 70 supply up right now. It's hard to imagine him losing this game. Ganzi, look at his resources. He is so starved. Team +3 for his tanks, and Losira actually just attacking into this. He's got so many mutas, he can actually just push these tanks down. Ganzi with, he's got still 1 force left, but once he loses it, he cannot replace it, and he may lose it right now. Mutas and Ultras charging through, taking down those Marines, and I'm not sure how much steam Ganzi really has left at this point.
Yeah, even though the forces for Losira are kind of trickling in, it looks like he has enough regardless, and that force gets cleaned up. Ganzi has a lot of forces actually rallying as he's trying to transfer over some SCVs here. This is for $500, so you can see why Ganzi is trying to everything out in this final Game 5 of this best of 5. It's been a pretty crazy series so far, and good game. Losira takes it. They're in the final moments of that match. What did you think about that push on the right side of the map for Ganzi? Could he have done anything better?
He was really well done with it. The problem was his economy wasn't set up in the first place, so it was hard for him to replace his units. I felt like he could have been a little bit more aggressive with his Marines on the high ground. He was really, really patient, but the positioning was perfect. The problem, though, was his opponent was making the Ultralisk switch. I'm really surprised that throughout this series we didn't see, if I'm not mistaken, a single Infestor.
Yeah, you're right. We saw about 1 billion Lings, but no Infestors whatsoever. I kind of felt like from Game 1 to Game 5, Losira was building on this strategy in a sense that in Game, was it 2 that we saw the Lings and he never went past any tech? You saw there were Mutas added in the next game, and then here in the final game, if his economy is flowing like it was in Game 5, he does add in more tech, but for whatever reason in Game 2, he just didn't. Doesn't really matter, though, because he won the best of 5, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, what works, man, and he made the Baneling style work 100%.
All right, Wolf. Well, as we're closing out here, do you have any final thoughts? Where can people go check out your stuff?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter, ProxyWolf, and tweet at me there. I'd really appreciate it. I've been streaming a little bit more recently, playing some old school games, and whenever I stream, I tweet about it. My stream is at twitch.tv/wolf_Schroeder. You can follow me there as well.
All right. Well, if you guys missed any of the action from earlier today, remember to go check out the VODs over at MLG.tv. And for myself, we still got State of the Game and Real Talk coming out. You can find all the VODs of that over at youtube.com/hitmejp. For Wolf and MLG, I'm JP McDaniel. We will see you guys next time on MLG Prizefights, presented by BIC Flex4 Razors. We're out.